Hey guys, Brian Bradford here at Sunflower Shop, and I know all of you have been asking us what's CBD about. Well, I brought in an expert for you to talk about this very topic. His name is Stuart Tomc. He's with CV Sciences. He's recognized authority on dietary supplements with over 20 years experience in the nutritional health industry. He's been over 4,000 radio appearances. He's a renowned educator, and Stuart recognizes the many health benefits of CBD, and he's got all the answers we need. So we're going to bring him in today to talk about it. Stuart, welcome today.
Brian, it's so good to see you. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for putting this together. And also thank you for being one of the very first stores to carry the Plus CBD oil product line. You were in our first, I think, 50 stores nationwide.
That's
Thank you.
that's awesome to hear, Stuart. You're very welcome, and it's been a pleasure because I know it's helping people. But we got to clarify a lot of questions out there because let's lay the groundwork and the foundation. A lot of people are still confused about what's the difference between hemp oil and marijuana.
It's an understandable confusion because technically both hemp and medical cannabis are known as cannabis sativa L. So they have the same genus and species, the same nomenclature. Now, up to this point, most of us have been defining hemp as a product with 0.3% THC or less. You've heard that, most of our customers have heard that, and we believe at CV Sciences that it is time to evolve that definition. What I mean by that is we are very clear at CV Sciences that there are genetic differences between true outdoor grown agricultural hemp and indoor grown medical or recreational cannabis. Technically, if you can just indulge me for a moment, Brian, the gene that's in the hemp plant that produces the THC, that's the compound that regulators are necessarily and rightly concerned about. The enzyme that produces that, it's a THCA synthase enzyme. There appears to be polymorphism, which means genetic differences between hemp that we use to make hemp seeds and hemp seed oil and medical cannabis or recreational cannabis. So at CV Sciences, we are growing certified agricultural hemp strains. For example, we are growing Fedora 17 and Futura 75. These are listed certified hemp strains. They're not marijuana strains. So, Brian, we believe going forward, there will be more information for consumers to help make a decision. We are putting a QR code onto our label that will be affixed with a little rubber band around the top. This is per the new law in Indiana, so that regulators can scan the bottle, take you to a certificate of analysis so that the authorities can be crystal clear that it is a legal, lawful hemp product and not a medical cannabis product. So I know that's a long answer, but there is a genetic difference between hemp and marijuana. So we should start asking which strains of hemp are being grown to make hemp extracts, as opposed to the marijuana cannabis strains that will only be available through medical cannabis schemes or through pharmacies, not at Sunflower Shop.
So the audience really knows that CBD will not get you high, right?
Well, I think the audience is starting to learn that the isolated molecule itself is non-psychoactive. We also say it's non-intoxicating. It's also not psychotoxic. But remember, a hemp extract will contain, depending on the plant that was used, varying degrees of other minor cannabinoids and small amounts of THC that may, depending on the amount, have some effect on the person. So that's why we want to be very clear. The plants that we're growing had very little to no THC to begin with. I think once your customers realize the same hemp seeds and hemp seed oil that they've been buying from your stores, all we're doing is taking that same plant and CO2 extracting it. Did you notice earlier this year that Manitoba Harvest announced grass self-affirmation for their hemp food products?
No,
Did
I
you
hadn't.
notice?
I did not see that yet.
So this is a giant step forward. What I mean by this is Manitoba Harvest, one of the great hemp food companies, they've been working on proving that hemp is a food. I know that sounds preposterous, but according to the FDA, I mean, they need evidence, really safety data, to say you can put it in with Campbell soup, or General Mills can make hemp flakes instead of Wheaties. And we're very close to having Manitoba Harvest submit their work directly to FDA. That means they will grass grass. It's kind of
Yes.
incredible.
Which makes it legal,
Say that again?
which will make it legal in many ways. I mean,
Well,
just
it'll
getting more of those effects.
a food that will launch it to the highest level of acceptability because it will be entered into the US food supply. Now, CV Sciences has undergone the very same process of proving the safety of our hemp extract. Now, this is important. If Manitoba Harvest proves, and I think they have and they will, that their hemp is a food, and we've taken the same plant, CO2 extracted it, and just simply put it right into a soft gel, it's really the same thing. We are grassing the extract of the same hemp plant that's been proven to be a food, which is unique and different than medical cannabis plants that certainly contain CBD. And let's make sure to clear this, to clear the air, have great benefit.
That's
I
right.
mean, one of the beautiful things about this conversation, I remember one of the first times I was at your store, we had a normal member show up. I remember that. Who was a little,
I remember that.
confused. What were we trying to say? Here, I'll say it very clearly. CBD and phytocannabinoids might be very effective, and you may be able to grow it yourself too. And the other stuff that you have, well, that's probably good too. You know, what's so beautiful about this conversation is we can finally say, hey, this stuff might work. The difference between our products and other products is products like this have just gone through the scrutiny of QA, QC, the rigors of a laboratory, the toxicology work, the safety testing, the aftermarket analysis. You know, we have a 1-800 number on our bottle. If anybody has a side effect, even a minor side effect, you're supposed to report all of those. We collect all of that data. Brian, that's radically different than what most people have been doing with this plant. So the point we're trying to make is different product, different market, different customer. Hemp is a food, and it's legal, and you'll find it at Sunflower Shop. Cannabis, recreational or medical, you'll got to get that somewhere else. And I think once people figure that out, different product, different market, different customer, it won't be polarized. It will be what tool is best for the patient.
And what you're doing at CB Sciences is what's making you superior out in the field. So I really appreciate all y'all's work and research that you're doing. You mentioned CO2 extraction a couple of times now. Can you define a little bit more for the audience on really what does that mean?
Okay, it is a very eco-friendly way to extract large amounts of biomass. So what we do is we take the entire plant down and we have to pelletize it. Imagine a 15-foot tall hemp plant. There's a lot of water. And with water, you can get aflatoxins, you can get all kinds of microbes and so forth. So we pelletize it, and then CO2 extraction is really, I think, mysterious to people. They don't seem to understand that at standard temperature pressure, carbon dioxide is a gas, okay? And at like 60 pounds per square inch, it's a liquid. And at negative 78 centigrade, at standard pressure, it's solid, dry ice. So when heated above 31 degrees centigrade, this is the critical temperature, and at 171 pounds per square inch, that's the critical pressure or higher, together this is called supercritical liquid. It's just the most efficient way to take all the plant material out of the biomass and just put it all together. Now, it's different than cannabis extraction, where they use solvents like butane hash oil. Okay, that's a different product, different market, different customer. And so the people that are interested in those products won't find those at Sunflower Shop. Sunflower Shop, we have outdoor grown, sun-kissed food hemp that's been CO2 extracted and put into the soft gel. So it's probably the most scalable, eco-friendly, efficient ways to extract material. However, if you are a cannabis enthusiast, you do not get the volatile aromatic compounds like you would with solvents. However, we'll never sell those products at CV Sciences. You'll never buy them at Sunflower Shop. Different product, different market, different customer. So when you hear CO2, you can think food grade, clean, eco-friendly.
That's right. In fact, I had a company a couple of weeks ago trying to sell me their CBD, and they had no proof for testing of pesticides, of herbicides, of those solvents that you spoke about, and even heavy metals. What about you at CB Sciences? How do y'all test your product?
Well, that's a really important part of our claim to fame. We have our own in-house laboratory, and we understand the testing of cannabinoids, uh, perhaps as well as any laboratory on the earth today. I'm not going to say we're the only ones that know how to do it, but we certainly did send our testing methodology to Consumer Lab. Did you catch the Consumer Lab report that came out earlier
Yes, I
this year?
did. Yes, I did.
Our president and our co-founder and I got on the phone with Consumer Lab, and we volunteered our calibration curves. So at CV Sciences, we know how to test cannabinoids for the active ingredient, the pesticides, the heavy metals, residual solvents. We send all of that out for third-party testing, and we have a big file cabinet, if you will, a giant cabinet filled with every other product in the market, everything we could buy, and we tested it all. So if you want to make sure that your products are consistently tested, make sure the company has a laboratory. The challenge with this ingredient, in my opinion, is it may work just fine without any of this QA/QC, which means backyard, backwater hemp extracts may work. The question is, could they survive the rigor of, say, an FDA inspection? And that is a different conversation. Consistency and safety, that's radically different than efficacy. Let's face it, you go out an herb walk and you're with a great herbalist, she might pick stuff right off of the tree that can help you in that moment. But the FDA might not like you having no gloves on, picking it with your hands and putting it into a bottle. So I would say let's not be too paranoid, because the industry now is very competitive, and it's not like it was years ago. Years ago, it was completely the Wild West. Today, I can say with confidence that most of the products that appear in the natural health food store world have done their due diligence, provided that they have some anchoring in the natural product industry. So make sure that they're part of the American Herbal Products Association, APA, and make sure that they subscribe to their testing and their labeling standards.
Well, let's get to the heart of the information most people really want to know about. Tell me, what are the benefits of the CBD itself, and especially the effects on this system that we are now talking a lot about, the endocannabinoid system. Can you define a little bit more about what that really is and how CBD affects it?
Yeah, so that really is the most important thing for all of us to remember all of the time. When we're having this cannabis cannabinoid conversation, let's remember that we have a hardwired system in our brain and in our immune system to receive these molecules. That is very important. So our first taste of this discovery of a system where we had receptors was when we made the breakthrough on discovering how nicotine works and the nicotine receptor. So our body makes acetylcholine that fits into the nicotine receptor, but then there's nicotine out in nature in the tobacco plant that fits into the receptor as well. And that all predated the discovery of the endocannabinoid system. And it's the system that we were given to respond to cannabinoids. Now, I think people are very confused here, Brian. I often hear, you were given these receptors, so God said you were here to consume cannabis? No, not at all. Total coincidence, no connection whatsoever. Your body makes cannabis-like compounds. So when they discovered a receptor in the brain, cannabinoid binding receptor 1, we call that the CB1 receptor, the most abundant G protein coupling receptor in the human brain. Now, these protein coupling receptors are the targets for 50% of drugs. So this is a known target. Researchers were trying to figure out how cannabis works. They thought it caused perturbations, making the cell membrane kind of dreamy, like anesthesia, until they discovered that there was a receptor. If there was a receptor, there's a key. God doesn't make us to be dependent on something outside of the body. So we learned that the body makes a cannabinoid, and we called it an endocannabinoid, endogenous, made by the body. The body's main endocannabinoid, first one we discovered, is called anandamide. In Sanskrit, it means bliss, joy, delight. It's a neurotransmitter. It's a fatty acid-based neurotransmitter that makes you feel extraordinary. I mean, when you are absolutely on top of it, you've got a lot of anandamide. It's more than just oxytocin. It's more than just brain-derived nootropic factor. When you exercise, you make anandamide and you get high on your own supply. CBD and phytocannabinoids have an effect on your endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is neuro and immunomodulatory. These products are also neuro and immunomodulatory. The challenge people have with this, Brian, is you've got two things going on at the same time. You've got, what does this do to me? And then, what does this do to my endocannabinoid system? And then we've got more. What are the other things you're doing or not doing in your life that affect your endocannabinoid system? Those things affect how you respond to these. So we have a conversation here, which interestingly enough, may require for us to take some CBD, to slow down a little bit, to put the conformational bias aside and the attention deficit disorders that we're suffering from, to try to compute and integrate all of this into our brains. The ECS is your master control system. This system was discovered in 1992. We had no idea what this stuff would do, and it was all pretty much illegal. The ECS regulates how you and I and Brian eat, sleep, protect, and forget. So eat. We don't want to overeat. THC gives you the munchies. That might be good if you're in the ICU. CBD sends satiety signals telling your brain to stop eating as much. Different product. That might be good for fat loss. CBD builds chi, energy, focus. It works on the serotonin receptor. THC removes chi. You want to take a nap, it's different. Removes chi. Totally different product, different market, different customer. So I think, Brian, once people understand that modulating your endocannabinoid system is something you've always done as you've taken care of yourself. If you exercise, if you sleep, if you eat right, if you have more omega-3, more aromatic herbs, you have a healthy endocannabinoid system. So I know that was a long answer.
It's a great answer.
The endocannabinoid system keeps you healthy, and plus CBD oil products balance the system that balance you.
That's right. That's right. So talk to us about the safety of CBD then. What about interactions with medications or anything that you can be cautious about?
Okay, so let's go 100,000 feet first, and then we can drive down. I'm a parent as well as a concerned citizen, so this is something I'm very concerned about myself. I've heard of the concern, I've watched the concern of THC with youth before their brains are developed. Now, if you're a soldier and you come back and you have PTSD and it's a myriad of other drugs and you're an adult, that is a different conversation. You're an adult. You're a child with a developing brain. We need to protect the brain. CBD is being approved right now as a drug by the Food and Drug Administration for little children, for drug-resistant seizures. So the National Institutes on Drug Abuse, NIDA, Dr. Nora Volkow, said it was safe, non-addictive, and non-habit forming. This is very important because we're talking about psychoneuroimmunology, mind-body medicine. We don't have many compounds in a health food store that affect your psyche and your body at the same time. The World Anti-Doping Agency said CBD perfectly safe for athletes as long as it has 0 THC. So make sure you're careful about that. The World Health Organization weighed on it recently, said it was absolutely non-addictive, completely safe. So that's busting the myth of the reefer madness. That's going to take, in my opinion, years and years for us to work through it. And then finally, you may recall one of our very first scientific papers. We took our product, at the time it was the green product, and we used it with a young man who was addicted to marijuana. So if CBD and THC are like L-theanine and caffeine, the gas and the brake, we took this young man in Colorado who was desperately addicted to THC under a MD psychiatrist's guidance and gave him the plus CBD oil and weaned him off the THC and he's never returned to using the recreational cannabis. His life is back together, his brain is better, and he's a more productive member of society. So different product, different market, different customer.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So tell me, a very common question we get, will it show up on a drug test?
Yeah, that is possible. I have to say this. We've evolved on this. Please, we're making progress. We are making progress, political progress, social progress. I had a call the other day from the second in command from a human resource department with the state of Maryland the other day. And she said she can't stand it anymore. That their employees there will lose their license from taking non-intoxicating CBD, from driving a truck, and they can take dangerous opioids. She was beside herself. We're working on it. Here's the issue. If your job requires that you not fail a drug test, don't risk it. Give us another year or two. Joe Maroon, the NFL neurosurgeon for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is a friend of mine and a mentor. He called me, Brian, the other day. He was going to speak in front of the entire NFL. And he asked the question. He said, you listen closely, young man. Will we test positive with this hemp? You know, there's no THC measurable in it, right? It's ditchweed. It's not going to happen. He didn't want to hear my answer. I said, Doc, it is possible. He said, wow, I don't want to hear that. I said, you get on stage and you tell him. He called me afterwards. He said, everyone wants to know how they can still use it because we told the truth. Now, how many people have tested positive taking these products? A handful, a 3 or 4 after 1 million bottles. But it sucks the air out of the room, and then the fear comes in and the ambulance chasers. We can't have that. If your job requires that you not fail a drug test, use the gold topical balm. He's got all these soldiers, the athletes, the football players, rubbing the gold balm over their hands, their backs, and their feet. They're cannabinoid receptors in your skin, but you're not going to get it into the bloodstream. So you're going to get some benefit, and sooner or later we'll get this thing cleared for everybody to take. Until then, wait patient.
Well, quick story on my part. I did take your green label at 3 milligrams. I went through a whole bottle in 2 weeks' time. And I went and drug tested myself. I did not pop positive on that test, but you're right. I understand the possibility is there, so people got to be cautious about it.
Yeah, I don't want the one little tiny thing to ruin this. I mean, when I started, all of the young men and women at the company were trying to test positive. So we had strips, urine tests everywhere, people just downing entire bottles, and no one tested positive. At some point, somebody did during one of our clinical trials, 70 patients in Colorado taking a 25 milligram capsule and the spray liberally, maybe 35 milligrams a day. One patient
out of 70
in Colorado. I mean, come on. So anyway, I just don't want anybody to get in trouble. So here's the solution, because we don't want to just say no. That's a horrible broadcast. Let's have a solution. You walk into HR with these products and you say, I'm a little anxious lately and benzodiazepines are not for me. I mean, I'm a little stressed. I think who isn't these days? And SSRIs are not for me. And my back hurts a little bit and opioids are not for me. May I please try this? You know what I learned, Brian? People like it when you ask permission. No, I'm talking about on a deep, human, energetic level. I think we've kind of missed the manners of asking for permission lately. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I think we're getting to that point where it works for people if they do.
I've had people call back. I'll tell you one other story. A health food store called me. There was a young man that tested positive, and he was in the military. And she was nervous. And I know her. She said, I go to church with these people. Stuart, I've known you for 20 plus years. Please, you have to help. And I thought, I don't know what we can do. We sent over the certificates of analysis. They looked at it. They let him take another week and a half. He tested again. He didn't test positive. He's back in the program. So again, we don't want to have to send the cavalry in to save you. So why don't you please start and be proactive and ask your HR department if you may please use Plus CBD oil products so that you can feel your best to maximize your productivity on the job.
I totally agree, Stuart. You know, customers come into the store and they see this whole end cap, these 4-foot shelves, and there's 3 or 4 of them filled with just CB Science products. 1 milligram, 3 milligram, 25 milligrams. Where does a person start? That's what we always ask. I don't know how much to take.
Well, that's the most vexing complex, nuanced, and difficult question to answer. And it's also the question that the answers help to truly elucidate how safe this compound is. And what I mean by that is when you study the medical literature, as I have, the therapeutic range, now we're just talking now about CBD, not about the total hemp extract, but the molecule itself. The range of benefit is from 3 to 3,000 milligrams. Wait a minute. Think of every other compound you know that doesn't have a window that's that wide, does it? So what does that tell us? It tells us two things. The wide window guarantees safety because you don't have some dose where once you hit, you've got a problem. Unlike THC, the dosing for CBD is in the hundreds to thousands of milligrams in clinical literature for isolated CBD for things like drug-resistant seizures. So when you have this huge window from 3 to 3,000 milligrams, what else is going on? I say it confers, it guarantees safety. It also tells us that the molecule has very what we call little orthosteric direct activity at any receptor site. Tuesday night, I gave a talk to 100 people outside of a health food store, 4 medical doctors in the front row. When I explained to them there is no direct activity of CBD to the CB1 or CB2 receptor, it's indirect activity. There's no orthosteric direct activity. They're all nodding their heads and writing notes. And if you're a doctor, that makes perfect sense. So what does that mean? If there's no direct activity, it's more indirect activity. So CBD and hemp extracts do a lot more of supporting than they do having any direct activity. So that is a huge point of differentiation. So if that's the case, if there's a huge window, then you better start low and slow unless you're completely impatient and you're in tremendous pain, in which case you're going to make a mistake going low and slow because you're going to miss the benefit of the window. We all know that window will close. Some of us are more patient. We'll be on the paleo diet for 6 months before we decide whether or not it's working for us. So we have multiple ways that you can educate yourself, multiple ways that you can decide how to start. The most conservative thing in the world to do is to first go to pubmed.gov, pubmed.gov. Now I'm going to go through all these processes. Slow and low, let's start with the most conservative first. You go to pubmed.gov, you type in cannabidiol and anxiety, because that's what you're dealing with. And you print out, sorry about my ping there, you print out the work, the paperwork from PubMed, and you get some plus CBD, whether you go to Sunflower Shop and get some product with the studies and bring them into the primary care physician's office and ask her directly, hey, what do you think about this? I'm interested in this. Let's begin that dialogue, because once they see peer-reviewed, serious research on pubmed.gov, you get their undivided attention. So that's one way to get started. Number two, the colors are for a reason. These are color-coded to let you know red is where you start. This is the beginning. Red codes for the body. We wanted to make this as simple as we could. It's a complicated subject, but this is actually simple. Red lets you know it's the body. The red products do not cross the blood-brain barrier, which means that they behave more like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. This product behaves more like an herbal aspirin. It doesn't have any of the effect on the central nervous system. So this product would be great. Let's say you hurt your back. You're exercising, you've become reaccustomed to it. It hurts a little bit. You shop at Sunflower Shop. You don't take aspirin. You don't take painkillers. Try this. Why? The red product is mainly CBD A. That's the acid form. CBD A operates more like aspirin. It doesn't cross that blood-brain barrier, but it modulates the lipoxygenase and cyclooxygenase enzymes, the same target as aspirin. So I look at this like an herbal aspirin alternative that you can take every single day without the ulcerogenicity or stomach bleeding. It's also good for anticipatory nausea and motion sickness.
Really?
CBD A, yeah, that's why I was looking forward to
Yeah, I
doing
didn't
this.
know that.
We've got more stuff.
Okay.
CBD A, and I'm going to explain the A in a moment. CBD A, because the 5-HT1A receptors in the gut, you know, the serotonin receptors in the gut, CBD A has 100 times more binding affinity. So it can really help with anticipatory nausea and motion sickness because that's the target, that serotonin receptor. So if you have an autoimmune condition, this would be the base because of the cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase pathway. So this is the whole plant, the seed, the stem, the stalk, the entire hemp plant, CO2 extracted and put in the bottle, in the soft gel. So each soft gel gives you 4 milligrams of CBD A, give or take, and 1 milligram to 1.5 milligrams of CBD. Now, when you take the raw hemp plant and CO2 extract it, if we don't heat it at all, keep it completely raw, which is why we call it raw formula, totally natural, this product has a natural ability to affect the body without the mind, without any effect on the central nervous system. This is good for people new to the conversation. If you are conservative, if you are religious, if you are nervous about the cannabis conversation, as I was, you want to start low and slow, see if you get all the relief you're looking for with the way nature, God made it. We've tested this for aflatoxins, none. Glyphosates, none. Right off the field in the soft gel, this is the way to start. If you use food medicine, you want camu camu to be your vitamin C, go with the raw. Now, let's say something is going on. They walk into the store, they're already anxious, they're already stressed out, there's already something going on. That's what the green label's for. When I mean already something going on, this is a food. This is a superfood that you can take every day. You can combine these, no problem. But if you come in and the main complaint is anxiety, you need an activated CBD. The CBD A doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier because nature, God, the universe, whatever you believe, keeps the CBD in a form that the plants aren't psychoactive to animals that eat them. It has to be heated first. That's why when you make the pot brownie, it gets activated. We take the raw hemp extract, we pop it into the crock pot overnight, and we turn it into activated CBD. So the green label is sort of the, got it? Activated, right? Crosses the blood. I wanted to make it simple. Red for the body, green for the body, and the mind. So this is still full plant, full spectrum, loaded with all the plant sterols and fatty acids and natural terpenes and cofactors. Both of these, full plant. The difference is this one's for the body and this one's for the body and the mind. Does that make more sense, Brian?
It makes complete sense. What about the gold?
That's the killer. That's incredible. I mean that in a good way. When I mean the killer, that'll get rid of the pain. This is our #1 selling product. We cannot bottle this fast enough. This is it.
I totally agree.
You're selling the daylights.
We can't keep it in stock. That's right.
Okay. This is our ultimate omega. This is our Prevagen. This is our product. We have a patent on the technology. We've done formal toxicology work, which we'll talk about next, on this actual product because I have a big update on the toxicology work. It takes 10 kilos of this to make 3 kilos of this. So let's think about this like fish oil, okay? The raw one would be like cod liver oil. And then you have like a ultimate omega, and then you've got a really concentrated, high EPA, high DHA. That's what this gold is. It's like a standardized herbal extract. It's 25% CBD and 50% fat, which means it has the fastest bioavailability. This is the product that's tearing up the country. This is the product that is selling itself at $2 for a soft gel. When you buy the little 10-pack, you can get anxiety relief, pain relief for the entire day if you are a responder. I'm sure you're seeing that too. The people that respond, it's like 9 out of 10 of the responders. I'll put it like this. 100% of the responders are responders.
They love it.
Right? Of the people that take it, would you say it's 6 out of 10 are responders, or 8 out of 10?
I'd probably say closer to 8.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, 8 out of
So
10.
let's talk about who's not responding. Because you asked about safety earlier, and I want to go back to this so people know that we are intellectually really rigorous. If you're really balanced, like my wife, you don't crave the stuff like I do. I've noticed.
That's right.
Have you seen people that are like,
Even keel.
and I give them the CBD and they say, I might have slept a little better, but I don't see what everybody's talking about. You give it to someone like me, who's clearly manic, and I am more comfortable in my skin. I get stone cold sober. I don't like 20 years plus having a drink. I don't do that, right? Happy family guy, community, all that stuff. But I was still like, da, 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 da. Wow. I mean, this changed everything for me. The challenge I had was I had to stop telling everyone else what to do. You see, because some people use the raw and they say that's the product. It took me a while to get everyone in the office to even try this because they were having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I said, no. Try this during the day. That's what I do. Try this during the day, and then maybe try a little bit of gold later, or maybe try this and only try this when you're under extreme stress. So people are finding, Brian, when you combine them together, now you're covering the full spectrum, because this is all the plant material as God, as nature made it. And that's the most concentrated CBD that we have. Now, in terms of drug-to-drug interaction, I don't want to overlook that. You mentioned it and I glossed over it. If you're taking these as directed for wellness, for well-being, and for stress support, you're fine. You're fine. If you're taking 5 or 10 different drugs and you decide to take 20 of these because you're in a whole lot of pain, well, you may want to talk to a doctor because it's very, very simple. The enzyme system that breaks down the cannabinoids is promiscuous. So it will take priority if there are drugs around. Sometimes the CBD will take the priority. You don't know for sure. It's based on the amount. So if you hijack the toilet, it's busy, it's occupied. It's like you're in the airplane, it's locked, you can't get in there. So the other drugs hang around for a longer period of time. This is only a problem if you have epilepsy and you're being controlled. So that's why we don't self-treat epileptics at Sunflower Shop.
That makes sense, yes.
That's why at CV Sciences, when someone says, what do we do if the kids have epilepsy? Go to GW Pharma and get Epidiolex, which is the imminently approved FDA drug to treat said epilepsy. Our products help you balance the endocannabinoid system. If you suffer from migraine, irritable bowel, or fibromyalgia, they are the byproduct, we believe, of an imbalanced endocannabinoid system. If we can get the ECS balanced again, this product didn't cure the migraine. Products don't cure migraines that you can buy in health food stores. Only drugs do that. Although natural products can help correct the imbalance in the endocannabinoid system that's causing the migraine. So it makes it a lot more fun for us to share this information, A, because it's true, and B, we're not breaking any of the laws. We're telling people that this supports the system that supports you. If that system's out of balance, and this can help with that, we may correct the underlying issue. And then again, we may not. And we're seeing through the sell-through in this day and age where the Dr. Oz effect, I think, was disgusting for our industry. All the robots and all the posts we know are all made up anyway. So we're looking eyeball to eyeball. Again, who can we trust? Does this stuff really work? And I think that's explaining the robust response. It's much more than placebo effect. This stuff seems to be delivering on the promise.
And because of that, Stuart, that's why Sunflower Shop trusts CV Sciences. I mean, you by far got the best product out there on the market I've seen. You yourself are just a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate every bit of your time today to help us explain what this is all about.
Well, thank you. I respect you. I admire you. It's such an honor. You trusted us, and it's a real symbiotic relationship. And I know some viewers and consumers are still, curious. They ask every day about the legal stuff. We're making huge progress.
It sure is. The legal side's getting great.
Let's focus on the only nonpartisan issue in America is hemp farming in Kentucky. I mean, come on. I mean, if you can replace all the plastic with hemp, that's a nonpartisan issue. If you can
That's
help
right.
save the environment with hemp, whether you believe that's happening or not, you can suck the CO2 out. It is a beautiful, just full circle American bringing us together conversation. And if you haven't been following that, please, when you're done with this, look it up. Look and see what happened with CBD in Indiana. Look at what's happening with CBD in Kentucky. Doesn't it make you happy, Brian?
It makes it awesome. I mean, I can't even keep up with the research that keeps hitting PubMed or some other organization charts because it's like they come out with 7 articles a day on research. So it's just proving every day to be a better and better product, just about for anybody. And that's what I really
And
love
that
about CBD.
is making the politicians feel safer too.
That's
Thank
right.
you for mentioning that. That flood, because the other day, the FDA's Department of Central and Peripheral Nervous System Drugs signed off on that Epidiolex CBD drug for little kids.
That's
And
incredible.
they called me and they said, "Are you scared? Are you nervous?" I said, "Are you kidding me? The last thing you want is the federal government saying it's not good for kids. Are you kidding me?" I remember being in this business when fish oil was approved as a drug. Do you know what happened to fish oil? You were in the business.
I was around too, yes.
50 to 150 million at Nordic sales. Why? It was proved to work.
Exactly.
And then there was a choice. And Americans like choices. And the freedom to go into a health food store versus being forced to buy it as a prescription is a very similar conversation. See, the way that I see this in the next few years, we've got your stores, we'll have the pharmacies, we'll have the dispensaries, and people can grow it at home too eventually.
I would love to see that day.
Just don't take that homemade stuff and try to sell it to Brian.
No, won't take that. Not at all. Well, Stuart, as always, I always learn something new from you every time we speak. You're a joy to be with, and thank you so much for all your time.